I inherited a lighthouse deep in the woods a few months ago. My father passed away, and I needed money. It seemed like a quick way to pay off my debts. I was 35 and working as a public relations specialist. But when I arrived, it felt odd. The lighthouse was old and decrepit, with peeling paint. Tall, thick trees surrounded it, and I could hear the distant sound of waves. But it felt so isolated. I've never stopped thinking about it. The first night, I tried to settle in. It was too quiet. I thought I heard gnawing at the wood. Maybe a raccoon or a squirrel, I told myself. I set traps by the door. I felt nervous but didn't want to overreact. Just wildlife, I repeated. The next morning, I noticed strange scratches on the front door. I stared at them. They didn't look like anything a normal animal would leave. I blinked. The lights flickered at odd hours. I figured I messed up the wiring somehow. Old places have quirks, right? Still, I couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong. Days passed, and I caught glimpses of shadows in the trees. I'd be doing small chores and see something dart away in my peripheral vision. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but my heart raced each time like it knew something I didn't. It felt like I was being watched. That made working there harder. One evening, I stepped outside. The sun was setting, and shadows stretched long across the ground. I heard rustling nearby. It sounded close, too close. I turned quickly, but I saw nothing. My hands shook. Was it a deer? Just the wind? I couldn't be sure. I went inside and locked the door, feeling silly for being scared that I started digging into the lighthouse's history. Old records spoke of lighthouse keepers and strange accidents. The more I read, the more uneasy I felt. I didn't want to stay if I'd disturbed something that I focused on packing up the place, debating whether I should sell it sooner. But every night, the gnawing sounds returned. One time, something brushed against the window. I jumped and looked outside, breathless. Only trees swaying gently. I stood still, tense that I still felt something there with me. I didn't know if I had brought it, or if the lighthouse was hiding something from me. That night, right before I fell asleep, I heard a low whisper. You shouldn't have come here. It chilled me to the bone. My heart raced. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I slowly turned to the door. Was someone standing there? I wasn't sure. I held my breath, waiting. The air felt heavy. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. The lighthouse was no longer just a place. It felt like a trap. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the old wood felt amplified, echoing in my ears. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting it to swing open. By morning, I felt like a ghost of myself. I forced down breakfast, but my mind was cluttered. The whispers lingered like a fog I couldn't shake. After eating, I decided I needed to clear my head. I grabbed my jacket and headed out for a walk. The trees loomed over me, their branches twisted and gnarled. The sunlight barely broke through the dense canopy, casting strange shadows on the ground. Each rustle of leaves made my heart jump. I walked toward the shore, hoping the sound of the waves might calm me. As I neared the water, I spotted something on the beach. It was a small wooden box, half buried in the sand. My curiosity piqued. I approached it, brushing the sand away. The box felt heavy, and when I pried it open, my stomach dropped. Inside were old photographs and letters, faded but readable. Most were pictures of previous lighthouse keepers with their families. Their faces were surprisingly solemn, even when smiling. I couldn't shake the sense of unease as I flipped through them. Had these families faced the same darkness I felt? One letter caught my eye. It mentioned a shipwreck, the Sea Spirit. The crew vanished without a trace, and the letter spoke of a curse that befell the lighthouse. My hands trembled as I read it. Was this what I had disturbed? The very reason I felt watched? I stood up, feeling dizzy. I needed air. The shadows felt like they were creeping toward me, stretching with every passing second. Then, I heard it again, the whisper. You shouldn't have come here. The voice was closer this time, as if I was standing right in front of it. I whipped around, scanning the beach and the tree line. No one was there. Just more trees and the relentless waves. Panic surged through me. I needed to leave. I couldn't stay in the lighthouse another night. The air felt thick with something unspeakable, something that dug into my very bones. I turned back toward the path, ready to sprint. But then I saw a figure emerge from the trees. A man, tall and gaunt. He wore an old, tattered coat, the kind that had seen the sea too many times. He stared at me with hollow eyes. My breath caught in my throat. Who was he? Was he another keeper? Was he part of the curse? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The figure raised an arm, pointing at me. "You must leave," he said, his voice gravelly, filled with urgency, "before it's too late." Then everything went dark. I came to in a cold sweat, the salty tang of the air hitting me like a wave. I was lying in the sand, the whispering waves still crashing against the shore. My heart raced as I pushed myself up, looking around for that gaunt figure. He was gone, but the unease remained, thick and suffocating that I wiped the sand from my clothes and forced myself to stand. This couldn't be real. I had to get back to the lighthouse. But the path back felt longer this time, shadows playing tricks on my eyes with every step. The trees seemed oddly alive, their branches twitching, beckoning me towards something unseen. When I finally reached the clearing, I stumbled toward the lighthouse, half assured that the old structure would protect me. Just as I reached the door, I caught a glimpse of the box I had found earlier, still open, as if awaiting my return. Countless questions battled for space in my mind. Why had I been drawn to that box? What was in those photos that troubled me so? I stepped inside, the familiar scent of oil and salt washing over me. The air felt heavier inside, a stark contrast to the wind sweeping outside. I closed the door and leaned against it, my breath catching in my throat. I wanted to feel safe, but the very walls felt like they were closing in on me. Then I saw it. On the windowsill, the ship's bell. I had noticed it before, but now it hummed softly, almost sweetly, as if calling to me. I stepped closer, drawn to it despite my apprehension. The bell was engraved with a name, the Sea Spirit. My blood ran cold. Did the ship belong to that cursed crew? Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped, and a chill ran down my spine. The bell began to clang, sending echoes ricocheting off the walls. Fear tightened its grip on me. "No, no, please," I muttered, backing away, but the clanging grew louder, one sound after another, like a warning bell announcing something terrible. The door rattled behind me, and I whirled around, nearly colliding with it. I yanked it open, heart pounding in my chest. I bolted outside, not caring if I was followed. The sun was sinking lower, casting long shadows along the beach. I could still hear the bell ringing in my head, like a siren's song leading me astray that I stumbled toward the water, desperate for clarity. But the waves crashed harder, as if in anger, and I caught sight of something bobbing in the surf. A figure, dark and formless. My breath hitched as it drew nearer, the water retreating and revealing a shape. That was when I saw it more clearly, a tattered coat, just like the man from earlier. My stomach twisted. Panic surged once more, this time more intense than before. Whoever it was, they were coming for me. I turned to run, not looking back, but I could hear the whispers again, clearer now. "You're part of the curse." The realization struck me like a physical blow. What had I unleashed by opening that box? I raced up the beach, my only hope to escape the fate of the Sea Spirit. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to find them here. I sprinted up the beach, my feet sinking into the wet sand. The eerie whispers accelerated, wrapping around me like a fog. "You're part of the curse." I couldn't make sense of it all. Who was the voice? What curse? The lighthouse loomed ahead, its weathered walls no longer a sanctuary but a prison I feared. I burst through the door, slamming it shut behind me. Panic clung to my chest as I pressed my back against the door. I took rapid breaths, scanning the room for any sign of the malevolent figure. The silence was unnerving. I cautiously moved away from the door, each creak of the floor beneath me sounding like a warning. My eyes fell on the box again, still open, eerily inviting. I needed to know what I had ignored before. Maybe the answer lay within those photographs that I hesitated, but curiosity overpowered my fear. I approached the box, heart racing. Inside, the photos seemed to shift as I moved closer, as if they held secrets that were alive. I flipped through them quickly. Most showed sailors, their faces a mixture of joy and despair. There was one photograph that caught my breath, a gathering with an empty spot in the middle, shrouded in shadows. Then I picked up a small note tucked in the corner. My eyes scanned the hastily written words. "To free the restless, the keeper must take the place of the lost." I read it again, but it did nothing to calm my nerves. Who was the keeper? What had they lost? As I processed the words, a sudden loud crash echoed from above. I flinched and looked up, dread flooding my veins. The stairs leading to the lantern room creaked ominously. I wanted to run, But something held me in place, a mix of fear and a need to know the truth. The crashing continued, followed by frantic footsteps. I had no choice. I had to confront whatever or whoever was up there. Hard in my throat, I crept up the stairs. Each step multiplied my unease. The lantern room door was slightly ajar, the light spilling from within. I reached for the handle, but hesitation seized me. Then, the sound of soft laughter floated down. It was chilling, familiar and feigned, as though someone had transformed joy into a weapon. I pushed the door open. The room was empty except for the grand glass lantern that captured the fading light. My pulse quickened as I stepped inside, scanning for any sign of life. Just as I turned to leave, the door slammed shut behind me with a force that rattled the glass. "Let me out," I shouted, pounding on the door. "What do you want from me?" Then, from the shadows behind the lantern, a figure emerged. My blood ran cold as I recognized the coat, the same tattered coat from the figure by the water. This was no coincidence. "Welcome back," it whispered, a smile twisting across its face. "We've been waiting for you." I stumbled back, eyes wide. Something was very wrong. I had to escape, but the room felt like it was closing in. As I fumbled with the doorknob, a voice echoed in my mind again to free the restless. Suddenly, everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness swallowed me. My heart pounded like a drum, drowning out my ability to think. I reached out, blindly grasping at the air. Nothing. The room felt suffocating, like a fog that wrapped tighter around my chest. I forced myself to stay calm. "You can't panic. Breathe." I focused on the last thing. I remembered the figure in the coat. I needed to understand what was happening. I heard breathing close to me, soft and deliberate. It wasn't mine. "Who are you?" I whispered, desperation creeping into my voice. "No one," the figure replied. Its breath chilled the air around us. "Just the keeper of your fate." I felt a chill run down my spine. The phrase echoed in my mind. A frantic realization washed over me. The keeper. Was this what the note meant? "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. "Because you must understand your role." The figure stepped forward, the faint light from the lantern outlining a face that was familiar yet blurred. It twisted with shadows, making it impossible to see clearly. "You are part of it now. There are others waiting." "What do you mean?" I stumbled back, seeking any way to escape, but the walls loomed closer, wrapping me in an immovable grip that I felt something shift in the air. The room pulsed, as if it were alive. When the figure spoke again, it was louder now, the words echoing around me, pinning me to the spot. "To free the restless, you must take their place." It was always meant to be. Before I could respond, flashes of movement captured my attention. Ghostly images manifested from the shadows around me, faces of sailors from the photographs, their expressions a mix of hope and despair. They reached out, mouths moving soundlessly. My hands shook, and I held my breath, too terrified to make a sound. Then, the images began to fade. The laughter echoed again, but it grew deeper and darker, filling the room with its haunting melody. I felt a pull, as if something was dragging me towards the lantern. "No," I cried, finding my voice. I turned to the door, but it remained solid, as if sealed by an invisible force. "I want to be like you." "You already are," the figure whispered, lingering at the edges of the lantern's light. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the photographs erupt into chaotic movement. They spiraled around me, each image telling a story I couldn't comprehend. I stumbled forward, reaching out, trying to grasp the one with the empty spot, the gathering with the shadows. That S when I saw it, an outline of a figure lurking behind me. This one wasn't an echo of the past. This was someone new, and my blood turned to ice. I turned slowly, dread seeping into every fiber of my being. "What do you want?" I managed to whisper, my voice cracking. Its mouth opened in a silent scream. The laughter intensified as the darkness closed around me once more, and I felt myself falling deeper into an abyss. Then everything went quiet. I took a moment to gather myself. Panic felt like ice in my veins, but I had to push it down. Slowly, the silence around me solidified into a space I couldn't quantify. I was still in the same room, but everything felt shifted. The lantern's glow flickered weakly, its light growing dim as if it was losing strength. Then I noticed something beneath my feet. I looked down, and there it was, an old compass, its needle spinning wildly, desperate to find direction. It was out of place among the shadows. I reached down, fingers trembling as I picked it up. The moment I held it, the air shifted again. The temperature dropped, and I shivered. I could hear the breathing again, but it felt different now, closer, more frantic. Instinct urged me to run. I turned toward the door, but something of force I couldn't see held me in place. "Why are you showing me this?" I called out, the compass heavy in my palm. "What do you want?" "Find the light," came the whisper from the figure, barely audible over the pounding of my pulse. "What light?" I glanced around, heart racing. "I need to escape." The shadows seemed to shift, revealing glimpses of my surroundings. More photographs hung on the walls, images of storms at sea. A gray lighthouse standing resolute against crashing waves. Each one felt alive, watching, waiting. But I didn't want to be part of this. I wanted to flee. I forced my feet to move, heading toward the only window. The glass was clouded, obscured by grime. I reached up, pressing my palms against it. I could see the outline of trees outside, silhouettes swaying in the darkness. That's when I heard it clearly, the faint sound of cries. They pierced through my fear, breaking the spell of silence. Faces appeared again, the sailors desperately mouthing words I couldn't hear. Their eyes were wide, pleading, and I felt a deep ache in my chest. As the lantern flickered once more, I looked back to the figure. "What happened to you?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Time isn't what it seems," the keeper replied, stepping closer to the light, the shadows shifting with every move. "You're not just here to look. You are needed to bridge the worlds." The room began to pulse, the air thickening with tension. The compass rattled in my hand, and just like that, I was back in the whirlwind of chaos. The laughter rose again, louder, and I felt the pull of the faces around me. I had to fight against it. I couldn't let them take me. I searched for the nearest wall and slammed my palm against it, desperation surging. "What do you want from me?" Suddenly, the keeper lunged forward, their face clear for a split second, a sailor's face, twisted by anguish. It felt like a mirror balled into my chest. Then, just as quickly, they were gone. I froze. The laughter cut off, replaced by an eerie silence. That's when I found a glint of something metallic on the table beside me. I stepped forward, heart pounding, and grabbed it. A rusty key. What did it open? My mind raced as I stared at the door. Whatever was waiting on the other side, I needed to find out. Could this be my escape? But before I could decide, I heard a whisper cascade through the room, a warning laced with dread. "Don't turn back." Panic surged. I couldn't ignore it. I needed to know what lay ahead. So I faced the door, gripping the key tightly. I was ready to confront whatever waited for me next. I inserted the key into the old lock, my fingers shaking as I turned it. The door creaked open with a slow groan, revealing darkness beyond. I hesitated at the threshold, the chill in the air biting at my skin. Whatever lay ahead, I was stepping into the unknown. With a deep breath, I forced myself through the doorway. The new space was cold and damp, almost suffocating. The faint light from the lantern flickered behind me, but I quickly realized this was a corridor lined with more doorways. Each one felt like a whispering invitation, but fear gripped me tight. I couldn't dwell on that now. I had to focus on what lay ahead. I took a step forward, the wooden floorboards groaning beneath me. Shadows darted at the edges of my vision, and I could hear the wind howling outside, almost echoing the cries I'd heard before. But there was something else, an underlying hum, a soft rhythm that seemed to resonate through the walls. I followed it, feeling compelled to uncover its source. I made my way down the corridor, my heart hammered in my chest. I glanced at the doors, half expecting one to burst open. But they remained still, quiet. An eerie sense of safety wrapped around the corridor, as if it was a cocoon, and I was the unsuspecting insect. Then I saw it. At the end of the hallway stood a large, double doorway. The wood was ancient, covered in strange carvings that seemed to undulate in the dim light. The hum grew louder here, almost inviting. I approached, examining the carvings closely, an inkling of unease crawling up my spine. That's when I remembered the compass still gripped in my hand. With my other hand, I pulled it out and held it up. The needle was spinning madly, but my instincts told me it was pointing toward the doorway. I had to open it. As I reached for the handle, a thunderous bang echoed behind me, making me jump. I whipped around, heart racing. The lantern's light flickered and struggled, casting wild shadows across the walls. I could hear whispers again, clearer this time, almost a cacophony that filled the air with dread. Turned back, but I was too close. I couldn't turn back. Not now. I grasped the handle tightly and pulled the door open. What I saw took my breath away. A vast room stretched out before me, illuminated by an ethereal glow. The walls lined with more photographs, but these were different. Each one showed scenes of seafaring adventures, mariners braving storms, and serene horizons beckoning them home. In the center, a table stood with a solitary, unlit lantern. It was the only other light in the room, its glass dusty and cracked. I felt an urge to approach it, to breathe life back into it. Something in my gut told me this lantern was crucial. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. A figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette cloaked in the darkness. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't he the keeper, but something far more sinister. "We have been waiting for you," it rasped, its voice a low rumble that echoed in the eerie stillness. I took a step back, heart pounding. What had I walked into? Then everything went dark. I stumbled in the darkness, disoriented. It was as if the shadows had swallowed me whole. My pulse raced as I fumbled blindly for anything to hold on to. The cold air wrapped around me, wrapping me tighter than a shroud. The earlier glow had vanished, leaving me in a void that choked off my breath. Suddenly, I felt a presence near me, close enough that the hairs on my neck stood on end. This wasn't he, just my imagination. I sensed an energy, a weight that pressed against me from all sides. "Hello?" My voice came out shaky, barely a whisper. Then, a flicker of light returned. Just a small glimmer, but it was enough to guide my eyes. I noticed the lantern on the table had reignited. The warm glow flickered back to life, creating long shadows that wavered against the walls. I couldn't ignore the pull I felt toward it, the urge to approach. Even with the ominous figure still lurking somewhere within the darkness, my feet moved against my better judgment. Each step felt heavy, weighted down by dread. I reached the table and crouched down, examining the lantern closely. It looked ordinary enough, but the light had an unusual quality, casting strange patterns across the photographs. That's when I saw a detail I hadn't noticed before. In the bottom right corner of one photograph was a familiar face, a young sailor clad in a tattered blue coat. My stomach dropped. It was a face I hadn't seen in years. My grandfather. What was he doing here? The whispers returned, swirling around me like a tide. They were louder now, a blend of voices that seemed to call my name, pleading. A sense of urgency gripped me. I knew I had to figure this out, but the fear was intoxicating. "Who are you?" I shouted into the dark, hoping for a response, my heart racing. The shadows twisted, but no answer came. I turned back to the lantern, feeling its warmth flood over me, and I needed to know more. Without thinking, I reached for the wick, hoping to ignite something beyond mere light. Suddenly, the figure appeared beside me, looming closer. "You shouldn't have done that," it hissed, low and chilling. I froze, my fingers just inches from the flame. Instinct kicked in, and I yanked my hand back. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice stronger now, though my pulse still thundered in my ears. I refused to back down. There was something powerful in this room, something waiting for me to break the connection. The figure leaned in, and I could see its face, twisted with an expression of both anger and sorrow. "You don't understand what you've awakened. He's trapped here, along with others. You need to leave," it warned, but I could see a resolve within its eyes. I shook my head. "No, I came to find out the truth." Just then, the lantern flickered violently, the light growing brighter, almost blinding. I had a fleeting sense that the darkness was coming alive again. The room quaked as I felt a shift in the air, a rush that sent chill bumps racing down my arms. As the shadows stretched ominously, I sensed impending chaos. How could I possibly leave when the answers I sought were right in front of me? In a matter of moments, the light vanished again, extinguishing my hope. The darkness returned, deeper than before, and I knew I was not alone. A whisper slipped through the air, haunting and familiar. "Stay with us," and then, the room tilted to one side, dragging me into the abyss. I landed hard on the floor, gasping as I fought to regain my senses. The shadows were thick around me, almost tangible. I blinked, trying to adjust my eyes to the lack of light, the weight of the dark pressing down like a heavy blanket. I scrambled to my feet, but something grasped my ankle, pulling me back to the ground. A surge of panic shot through my veins. I kicked frantically, my heart racing as I twisted to free myself. The grip slowly loosened, and I dragged myself away, desperate to put distance between myself and whatever had tried to hold me back. I found the wall and leaned against it for support, fumbling along the surface with my fingertips, desperate for anything that might offer a clue or a way out. The whispers returned, shot through with urgency, swirling around like a storm. They weren't muffled anymore. They echoed in my mind, clearer than before, and I could almost make out words. "You have to know he needs you. It's not over." The lantern flickered back to life, illuminating the room in pulses of light that created disorienting shadows. I felt a jolt of fear as I caught sight of the figure again, standing by the table. Its eyes glowed like embers in the dark, piercing right through me. "Why won't you listen?" the figure pleaded, its voice dripping with desperation. "They will not let you leave without understanding." "Understanding what?" I shouted, clenching my fists. "What does this all mean?" "They are anchored here because of him," the figure said, nodding towards the photographs scattered on the table. "Your grandfather is the key." I shifted uneasily, locking eyes with the figure. "What do you mean?" "He's just a sailor in an old photo." "No, he was much more. He made a choice, one that connects him to this place. You have to decide how far you're willing to go to uncover the truth." Before I could respond, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the lantern's light. I felt the temperature drop sharply, like ice crawled across my skin. Fear gripped me tightly. I took a staggering step back, only to collide with something solid and unyielding. "Leave now," hissed a voice, dripping with malice. "You don't belong here." I turned slowly into the darkness, trying to regain my composure. I couldn't run. Something was compelling me to stay. But the fear of what lurked beyond the shadows was overwhelming. When I heard it again, that soft whisper, but this time it was urgent. "The lighthouse, the light holds the answers." Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled, and for the briefest moment, I saw a flash of light beam from the lantern's remains, illuminating a path ahead. It was a fleeting chance, a chance to escape or find the answers I sought. With my heart racing, I started toward the door, my mind racing with thoughts of the lighthouse. I had to know what waited for me there. But as I reached for the handle, the whisper echoed once more, filled with a foreboding energy. "Don't turn back," and just like that, the room fell silent. The darkness closed in, leaving me with a chilling realization. There was no going back. I stumbled back into the corridor, clawing my way to where the lantern had shone. The echoes of the whispers followed me, constantly reminding me of the weight upon my existence. The corridor felt different now, alive, with the walls vibrating under my fingertips, as if the structure itself was aware of my desperation. I needed to escape, but with every step, that feeling of being watched returned, a shroud of unseen eyes scrutinizing my every movement. As I reached the doorway, the weighty silence was punctuated only by the distant crash of waves outside. I finally flung the door open and rushed into the lantern room, hoping to find something, anything, that would help unveil the truth. The room was a mess, items scattered about, but the old lantern still sat there, dark and dormant. Instinct drove me forward, and I fumbled with the wick, my hands shaking. I had to light it to uncover whatever secrets were hidden within. With the flick of a match, the lantern burst to life, its glow illuminating the shadows that swirled around me. But the light brought with it a cacophony of voices, a whirlwind of murmurs that clawed at my sanity. "He needs you. You're part of the curse." Each syllable ground into my mind like a shard of glass. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through, flinging open the windows, and I stumbled backward as a figure blurred into view, a spectral silhouette encased in the light. It was the man I had seen on the beach, the keeper of the lighthouse, a spectral remnant intertwined with my fate. He stepped closer, expression twisted with a sorrow unparalleled. "You can't escape your lineage," he said, the words heavy in the air. Before I could respond, another voice echoed around us, richer and laden with history. "You must choose." It was the voice of my grandfather, urging me to listen. Fighting against the waves of fear, I shouted, "What do you want from me? Why am I here?" "Resolve the past," the keeper urged, pain etched across his features. "You must remember. Memory flooded my mind, a sudden jolt of clarity that made my blood run cold. I recalled the sailors in the photographs. Their empty spots, these were the faces of those who never returned, never found their way back. My grandfather's choice had bound him here, trapped in a promise made in fear. "You're part of this cycle," the keeper said, gesturing toward the lantern. Light flickered around us, guiding my gaze back to the photographs hung throughout the room. Each one seemed to pulse, reminiscent of the souls they captured. I could see desperation in their eyes, a plea for liberation. My heart sank. "To free them, you must light the path," he continued. "But how?" I stammered, anxiety crawling beneath my skin. The shadows darted closer, the urgency clawing at me. In that moment, the realization hit me like a tidal wave. I was the final piece. To take their place, my voice trembled as I understood the weight of destiny weighing upon my shoulders. It wasn't about escape. It was about sacrifice. If sensing my hesitation, the whispers crescendoed, carrying the force of years of despair. "Free us," they called, desperation clawing through the air. I realized there was no more running. I had to stand firm. Summoning every ounce of courage, I stepped forward and took hold of the lantern. I breathed deep, the warmth flooded my veins. "I will carry the light." Suddenly, the room trembled. Shadows spun like a dance around the lantern, flickering in ecstatic response. The images of sailors, their faces shone clearer, illuminating their past. As I embraced the pull, I felt the darkness shatter, releasing the tormented souls back into the light. With each flicker, whispers subsided, replaced by the sweet sound of waves crashing against the shore, then completely silenced as the last knot of shadows unraveled into streaks of light. The lantern's glow weakened, drawing me deeper into a void, but I kept my grip, letting the warmth seep through me. When the chaos faded, I found myself standing on the beach, the lighthouse looming behind me. The world felt different. I was free, the lighthouse, silent and still. But at that moment, I remembered the words of the keeper. My heart sank, the unresolved echo of fate, shadows residing in the depth of the trees, a part of me lingering in the whispers still rich in the air. I turned back toward the forest, a lingering dread settling deep within me. The lighthouse would remain. Its mysteries would continue to whisper in the wind, and though I had escaped, something essential still lingered in the depths of those woods, waiting. That I walked away, knowing I would never return. But I felt the questions lingering like ghosts in my mind, conjoined with regret and a strange sense of belonging. I had found the light, but its cost still haunted me.